Hey, how come you guys didn't let me know it was time to start? I got a bit lost. Let's transition over so you guys can see what's going on. Um, Lately I've been trying to show more of my pre-stream work, so you're not just sitting there with a blank screen. Oh, I started right on time. Never mind. What am I getting mad at? Um, anyway, I wanted to get everything done except for the NGRX signal store, the NGRX signals. Um, So today, NGRX signals came out of they came out of developer preview. Um, so which is huge. That's amazing. I was also looking at Angular 18.2. When that one comes out, I think we might go and upgrade the Sudoku game again because there will be some generators there that I want to take a look at. But first of all, welcome to the stream, everybody who's here. Thank you for joining us on a Thursday night. I managed to work through some of the issues. I know what's causing the command prompt to pop over the top. NX has some issues sometimes in Windows. Until they get those all nailed down, some of the commands that NX runs in the background with the NX daemon will spawn new windows. And you probably saw that if you were watching before the stream, that when I run certain NX commands, we're getting extra windows. Those are all being spawned by the NX daemon. I may have to move this window to another screen so that it doesn't take over on top of the um, on top of my code editor, and I'll show you why once I open the code editor. But from what I've seen, every so often NX will make a release, and that release will open Windows, open new processes in Windows without the flag to hide that command prompt. And when it does that, it's just going to take over. It's gonna create command prompts on the screen, but since I've got the Windows terminal running, it kind of makes it worse. One of the things that I've done in the terminal is here under settings, I believe. Um, Under interaction, actions, no. Rendering, no. Appearance. And defaults, advanced. Inside of here, so this one, my default is set to automatically shut down. Under this one, I've got my terminal windows for the command prompts to never close automatically. I turned that on. I'm going to turn that off for right now, just so that I don't get a whole bunch of tabs across my Windows terminal. But hey, Michael, Michael was there for my talk at the Angular community meetup. I was really nervous for the talk. If you guys don't know, on Tuesday I gave a talk at the Angular community meetup. It's been a talk that's been kind of kicking around in my head for a while, and I decided to do a little bit of comedy, and hopefully it came off as funny and not pandering or anything silly like that. But what I decided to do was kind of create this idea that there was a presidential debate going on between two candidates. One candidate who thought they knew everything, and another candidate that was interested in thinking about state and how state should work and partnering with the community. So I did see Michael there. Thank you for being here, Michael. I really appreciate your support. You've been great. But you'll have to let me know. Uh, because I've got some people who are curious about the talk. Like people are reaching out about it because they've heard about it from other people, and they're reaching out to ask me about it and how it went. And they want to know if I'm going to do it again. It was good stuff. That's good to hear. I was really nervous. Like I almost didn't do any of the voices that I did or any of the stuff, right? But I don't think it would have come off the same. So, like 30 seconds before I was going to give the talk, I was like, you know what, dude, just do it. If it doesn't go well, um, then it doesn't go well, and you look silly. If it goes well, then it goes well. So, um, I, I enjoyed writing it. I enjoyed playing the parts, and I practiced quite a few times just to make sure that it was going to go well. So I was not expecting a more vibe-based talk, but it worked well. We're at a growing point. A lot of discussions. Yeah. Well, and there are a lot of people out there presenting good talks on state, and I just gave a talk on state at TinyConf, and when I originally started working on the talk, I just felt like I was rehashing what I did at TinyConf, and I was like, people don't want to see me give the same talk over and over in different ways. Um, so that's kind of what drove that idea. Um, but anyway, I want to show you guys how we would go about upgrading NGRX signals. There's some cool stuff in the version 18. So one of the really cool things, and this has always bothered me a bit, that we have to watch our MRs or PRs, right? PRs or MRs. We use GitLab at work, and in GitLab it's called merge request. On GitHub it's called a pull request, and so your MRs or your PRs, whichever ones you're doing. You always have to be really, really careful because in version 17, you could create a signal store, and then outside of the store, you can patch the state in the store. So it's possible for state mutation to happen anywhere. In version 18, by default, new state will cause a compilation error. They've added a flag that allows you to do this to make it backwards compatible, this protected state flag. But I'm actually going to turn that off. I want to be as safe as possible with our state. And then there's some other cool things. So yeah, like you could accidentally override signal store members, which could cause some weirdness. They've stopped that. The other really cool thing is they've added the ability to create private state by adding an underscore to your state. Just got a candy. Oh no. Yeah. Um, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I wanted to do something fun. Um, so um, yeah. The the last thing with Signal Store um, is they've added this. So this is the old way. Like if you wanted to do like deltas, maybe you wanted to do undo redo, which they call out up here, or log changes. Another reason to do deltas is to basically make your state more reactive, to where you can batch up deltas of changes and send them to the server, and the server can be more intelligent, right? Instead of sending an entire record, you just send what changed. And if two changes come in at the same time, as long as those two changes don't try to change the same field, they can both be applied as a patch, right, against the state on the server. It's a really powerful way to program, and something that I definitely want to take a look at, especially with the new state tracking that they've added, but also with XState. I have an idea for XState that I want to do. Basically, build a library that allows us to do kind of a live state where it will try to be a little bit intelligent and do some prefetching, right? Um, I'm not going to build a full-blown library. Maybe we'll turn it into a library at some point. But just a way to do state differently in Angular, I think would be a lot of fun. But anyway, the problem with using effects, right, is that if you do multiple changes before the coalesced change detection happens, those change detections all get run on the same tick. So your signal would update, right? Your state would update with every update that happens, and you would only get one. The signal would only emit once. The effect would only emit once for all of those changes. And so it makes it really hard to do deltas in that way, right? Especially if a whole bunch of changes come in. It's maybe unlikely in a change detection scenario, but they added the watch state, which actually kind of made me laugh because it reminded me of the $state.watch from AngularJS. So you were hoping for synchronous changes. Synchronous would be interesting too. I tend to shy away from synchronous anymore in the UI just because when you do synchronous stuff from the UI, you either need to move it to a background thread. It's not so much of an issue in a browser, right? Because everything you do in JavaScript is technically synchronous. There's some tricks going on with time sharing and things like that to give us async calls. But if you're not doing like web workers or spawning threads in some other way, everything's always running on the same thread, so it's technically synchronous, right? But in any other any other format, you don't want to be doing synchronous things on the main UI thread. Oh, that's the point of watch state. Back in my days, web workers that spawn threads were spiders. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Web workers that spawn threads are spiders. Yeah, you sound like you're as old as I am. And you just reminded me. So back when I was first dating my wife, I live by a lake in Utah called Utah Lake. And if you drive out, so we went to college in the Provo Orem area, and if you drive out across the lake from there, there's not a lot of stuff, but there's like this nice area where you can go sit and it's kind of got a beach and stuff. We went out there one night, and it was pretty dark, and the number of orb weaver spiders out there was just crazy. Like the fences were completely covered in them, and every bush and branch and tree was covered in. It was the craziest number of spiders I've ever seen in my life, just from all the bugs coming off of the lake. So you made me think about that. But yeah, web workers that created spawn threads were definitely spiders back in the day. Anyway, the point of watch state is not to do a synchronous thing, but it's to give you a place where you could, anytime the state changes, you can do something, right? So here you'll see that something, right? They're calling store increment right away. And so, we're going from 0 to 1 to 2. And you'll see that with the effect and with get state, we're losing some of those increments. Whereas with watch state, we get the initial state and then we get each increment, which allows us to, yeah, orb weavers are crazy spiders. If you guys have arachnophobia, don't go Google pictures of orb weavers. I'm fascinated by spiders, and so I actually think orb weavers are kind of beautiful. But you should go check them out. Orb weavers are some of the bigger spiders we have in Utah. technically the largest spider we have in Utah is the pink-toed tarantula, but that spider really only lives out on the desert. Um, I don't think, like, I've lived in Utah, man, over 20 years now, and I've never seen a pink-toed tarantula in the wild. My daughters have, my wife have, but they've gone out on the desert more than I have. Um, we have scorpions here. I have seen like rattlesnakes, like we get the western diamondback rattlesnake out here, and I have seen scorpions, plenty of lizards, things like that. But I've never actually seen a tarantula in Utah in the wild. So, yeah, the point of watch state is not to make the state synchronous. It's to give you a place to hook in. So this count changing could be a delta that we could put somewhere that we could do undo and redo, or we could batch these up and send them to the server, however we want to, and do something about that. Would you, can or would you use watch state outside of a signal store? Yesterday, I accidentally used tap response outside of a store. I don't know if it is intended. So tap response is a part of tap response is a part of I believe it's a part of the NGRX operators, right? I think it's one of the few ones there. So yeah, we've got concat latest from, we've got tap response, and map response. So these are the three operators that we've got in NGRX operators, and these two, tap response and map response, are here to help you with errors, error handling, so that we don't accidentally kill our effects, right? And in signal store, those are the RX method, right? So we don't accidentally kill this pipe. So the point of map response or tap response is that they force you to add an error handler and a finalizer, and then they provide the stuff that you give them in such a way that you're not going to kill. For example, here, if you killed off query, then this get movies by query just stops working, right? The effect just stops working and your application's broken. So map and tap response do that, and they're just RxJS operators. So you can use them just like any RxJS operators. Same with concat latest from. When we talk about anything signal store, so watch state is just a function, right? They aren't showing it here, but we would import watch state, and it's just a function similar to get state or with state or things like that. Could you use it outside of signal store? Probably. Would you? I'm not sure. You could. I guess. So one place where it might make sense to use something like watch state is if you want very granular reactions to changes in your state. Say, for example, maybe your form needs to do something very granular for each change in the state, where we may not want all of those changes coalesced into one change. Instead, when each change comes in, we want that to happen immediately. We can experiment with that. I don't know. I'm just guessing. So, yeah, I made it global to NGR. Yep. So, and there's a schematic for it. Yep, absolutely. And that's one of the things that I really like about NGRX as a company, is that they very much embrace Angular and the Angular way of doing things. So anytime there's a breaking change or something like that, they're always going to give us generators to help us get around it. And Oh, they've got a state tracking guide. I didn't even look at that when I read this earlier today. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff around entity management. I'm not using entities, so we're not going to look at that. We might use entities when we introduce a database. So maybe we'll come back and take a look at that together. But there's some really good stuff in the way they're handling entities too with version 18. Um, and then as long as we run the upgrade, we're going to use NX, and NX is going to run the same generators. So we'll get the same advantages. And NGRX toolkit, yes, very much so. It's a great addition to NGRX. So yeah, the toolkit is it's not a part of NGRX, but it is very good. There are a couple of libraries, right? Like ng extensions, and a couple other libraries like that out there that really take some tools and make them much better. So yeah, I agree with you on that one. All right, so we've gone through that state tracking. So it looks like they've taken a lot from the blog, but I'm curious if they show anything. Oh, that's cool. So here you can see that watch state returns an object with the destroy method. It looks like we can use that destroy method to clean up. So here they're getting rid of the watch 5 seconds after they've started it. So they want to watch it for 5 seconds for whatever reason. So here you go. Here's exactly what you were talking about. So yes, you can use watch state outside of a store. They're doing it right here, and it just comes from NGRX signals. And they're doing it on init, so we can just pass the injector into it, and then it's going to look like it's using a console log. So anytime the state changes, they're just going to log it. So we don't need to experiment. They already answered our question for us. Yeah, the docs have been really good. I keep coming back to the docs and just reading over them because there's a lot of good stuff in here. And even the signal state is very powerful. When you don't want to create a whole store, you could just create a quick state object and bind that to a form or something. And then you don't have to, a store has to be injected. State can just be included. So there's a lot of really powerful things in here and some really interesting patterns, right? So they go through how to use it in a component. They also show you, hey, you could even add state to a service that you roll on yourself. So, hey, Chow, you just got the new docs for Angular 3 using Astro. Let's go take a look at your docs. Probably make a video. Chow's been streaming again, you guys. So first of all, thanks for showing up, Chow. But let's give Chow a shout out here. And Chow's been streaming again. And he's been doing some stuff with just with Angular 3 on his blog or on his stream. I haven't actually caught any, Chow. I need to. I need to figure out when your schedule is so that I can be ready. The past few times, every time you've streamed, you have been I've been out of the house or oh, I don't know. Did I share the update about our puppy? I don't remember. I don't think so. So our youngest dog actually went into surgery on Tuesday. and we were really worried about her. My wife and daughters were in LA. It was me by myself, and I was taking care of the dogs. And our puppy, she is crazy. She'll eat anything. And so usually she'll eat something, and we'll find, she throws it up in random places. And we're working hard on trying to get her to stop, and we're trying to be careful about what's accessible to her. We don't know how she got it or where she got it from, but I'm fairly certain it happened Sunday night, because um, Sunday night was kind of a rough night. She was throwing up all night and things like that. And then Monday, she was just in a lot of pain, and we were really worried that she was poisoned and that she was going to die. We were really worried about her. Luckily, our vet was able to get her in, and they took her in and x-rayed her, and my wife showed me the x-rays, and she just had a whole bunch of like a cord or string. We don't even really know what it is yet, inside of her. And sorry about that. As soon as the vet saw it, they took her into surgery immediately. You have zero schedule. And so she immediately went into surgery. She had to have, they had to open up her stomach and part of her intestine. And they pulled out what looked to be about 25 feet of a cord that was probably a quarter inch in diameter. Um, and she had swallowed it. And we don't know where she got it from. Like, it was a mass of cord like this when we went to pick her up on Tuesday, or was it Tuesday? No, it was Wednesday. We went to pick her up on Wednesday after she recovered, and she had a mass that big in her stomach and intestines. And for context, she's a dog that's probably like this big and this tall, right? So the vet was surprised she had that much inside of her. Um, the surgeon who did it was surprised when they pulled it out. It was shocking how much she'd swallowed. We don't know where she got it from, or stuff like that. And so um, yeah, it was scary. We were really really worried about the poor pup. And so right now we have to watch her really close. She's got her cone of shame on, um, and we'll put her up on the couch so she can sit by us. But she hasn't figured out that if she jumps off the couch, it's going to hurt. And so we have to be really careful and make sure that somebody's there to make sure she can't jump off the couch. Um, like if I walk into the room, she's going to want to be by me, and so she'll jump off the couch. Or just before the stream, I thought she was asleep on a blanket. I got up to come in to go stream, and she saw me leave, and she jumped off the couch, and then she just yelps, which comes out as a bit of a squeak from her. But yeah, so um, but the reason I was telling that story is that the last time Chow was streaming, we were trying to figure out what was going on with my dog, and I was like, ah. So let's go take a look at Angular 3. Um, Angular 3 docs. So if you guys don't know what Angular 3 is, you should go check out the talk that Chow gave at TinyConf. And we'll go see if we can find that. Well, this is old. Angular3.netlify.app. Angular 3 netlify.app. So Angular 3 is a wrapper around 3JS. And Angular skipped from version 2 to version 4, and everybody asks what happened to Angular 3.0, right? And so there's a bit of a joke that Chow decided to write Angular 3, and it does some really cool things. So you can do 3D scenes using just Angular Oh, this is nice. I like this, Chow. I really like the docs here. They look really good. Um, I like the way this is set up, but notice that um, here you're creating, he's walking you through, but you're going to create a 3D scene. I mean, he's showing you in the docs how to set that up. Um, and I imagine by the end of here, yeah, so already using this, um, you've got the mesh, you've got the box geometry, and you're rendering a 3D cube already in the browser. And to do that, there was some setup that had to happen, right? That you go through and some code that has to be written. But really, to render that 3D cube, this is the code that's needed after you get, the geometry and that kind of stuff set, right? Or not the geometry, the geometry's here. But once you get your meshes set up and your scene and all of that set up, then it's going to render this, and then he goes through some animation to where, right, angular variable, get a reference, and he's using the view child, right? So it has to be there. And then um, the inject before render, he's just adding a reference to the mesh, and then adding a rotation to the mesh, and that creates this view. Really, really cool. So if you speak Angular, Angular 3 is amazing, right? And now he's showing how you can change, um, right? You can scale, and you can change your materials, right? So you've got the mesh, and the mesh, are all the points, and the splines that connect the points. Basically, your mesh is all of your, not your rectangles, but your triangles that make up your geometry. And then you can add a material to the mesh, and right. So he's just doing a simple color. And you can see that when you hover, the things are there. And like it's difficult to see the 3D-ness of this, and so that's where he's adding lighting. And so again, right, you just add an ambient light, and he's adding a couple of spotlights, and he's angling them, so that they angle on the scene. Um, oh, okay, so you're exporting math so that you can use it here. Um, and Oh, it's no longer a basic material. He's having to change the type of material so that it handles the light better. But you can see already that by adding those lights, now you can see, and so this is a really cool stuff about just the way Chow puts this together is he's going through and he's giving us the ability to um, put things together in a way that Angular devs are going to understand, but he's building, right, simple tutorial. And then as you get, more routed scenes, really, that's awesome. Um, he's got some more demos. Where are the rest of your demos, Chow? But really, really amazing library. And we're going to be using this one. I keep telling Chow, I have an idea for a card game that's kind of a Slay the Spire based on type of WWE type stuff, where the characters and moves and stuff like that are generated by an AI, and then the game would interpret what that means and try to build some stuff. So okay, so the demos aren't here yet. Um, he has some amazing demos. Um, and that's the crazy thing. Analog has given life to so many cool things. And the work that you guys did, um, using the work that you guys did to hook into the Angular compiler, um, I had there's some things I want to try. I keep wanting to try some weird stuff, but the work that you guys have done in the Angular compiler makes those more likely to be possible. So if you guys don't know, Chow and Brandon, they were the ones who worked together for the single file components. And if you ever get the chance to let them tell you the story on how they came to be, um, it's a hilarious story. And if you can ever be in the same place where both of them are and hear both of them, um, Brandon and Chow have an amazing relationship, and it's fun to listen to them talk. And another person who's been hugely influential in the single file components is Josh Maroney. So the three of them are really fun to talk to about this stuff. So, but thank you for being here, Chow. And I am going to build something with Three.js. I intended to do it much earlier. This year has been a bit crazy for me with work. We're launching a new product, and there's just a lot of work that goes into something like that. Um, and so a lot of the preparation that I would do for a stream where I'm going to do something like Three.js, I just haven't had the time to do. So I'm, but it's in the works. Um, Angular 3 before I can, wow. So a test utility, that's going to be awesome. It's going to be amazing. Um, but anyway, let's go ahead and stage these. And I think Chow probably is making bets with people before he joins the stream. Um, because um, he is way too good at nerd sniping me. I'm like, I'm sure Chow's like, hey guys, I bet I can nerd snipe him in the first 30 seconds. And then he succeeds. Um, so um, he's just way too good at it. He's like, hey, have you seen the docs for Angular or for Angular 3? And I'm like, dude, no. We go check him out, and then I love it. Chow's just he nerd snipe almost and kind of got sniped earlier too. Were you on his stream today? That's one of the things that I wish I had more time during the day to watch streams. Because I really enjoy Martine Dowden. Her streams are fun. Brandon's streams are fun. And then I would love to be able to just attend a couple more streams. But oh, hey Brandon, you want to check out? Problem. Yeah, and that's the way another amazing Angular library is born. Chow's just like, hey, Brandon, check this out. And then all of a sudden, we have a brand new Angular library, 2 or 3 weeks later. Yeah, exactly. AngularJS document. Really? So like something to generate docs? Is that what I'm to understand? Oh, I'm gonna have to talk to you. I'll have to message you after the stream. Oh, dude. Oh, you're gonna make so many Angular devs happy. Um, wow. Um, I am so glad the singular file components stuff didn't stop the two of you. Um, because I'm kind of joking here that the way a lot of Angular libraries are born is Chow just goes, "Hey Brandon, check this out," and then an Angular library is born. But you guys would be surprised how many Angular libraries are born in that matter. Um, so very excited to see it, Chow. Anyway, let's get back to upgrading, and let's see if we could actually write a Vindicoder today. I so when I was doing my talk for the community meetup, um, my wife actually stood outside the door and filmed me as I was doing the voices and stuff. And she sent a text message to my daughter, and she's like, "Your dad's gone crazy." So maybe I'll have to see if I can get that video from her, um, and maybe I'll post that up on Twitter so people can see it. But those docs look really good, Chow. And if you have the ability to create docs like that, I'm excited to see what you guys are working on. Anyway, um, to do our upgrade, so again, we're just gonna make sure, right? I use NCU. It's a tool that I started using, but then Chow really upped my game. I will say, and that's kind of like I joke about Chow being everywhere and Chow having clones, but um, I really appreciate the stuff that Chow does behind the scenes that people aren't aware of. Um, and I was using NCU very naively on stream, and Chow really opened my eyes to some of the power of the tool. Um, and um, and that's a common theme, just in the stuff that I do, is that I'll be using something naively, and um, Chow will reach out and, why do I have so many follow me on Twitter? I need to fix that. Holy cow, you guys! I'm looking at the YouTube chat, and it's just me spamming chat. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me. I need to fix that timer. Um, I'll do that after the stream. That is horrible. I'm very sorry that you guys are being spammed like that. Um, like I'm looking at it in Twitch, and I can't breathe on Twitter without getting 3 bots. Yeah, um, it's it was getting better, and now it's not, and then it gets better, and it's not. Um, I don't know. I I guess apparently I don't feel strong enough to move to any of the competitors. And now some of the people that had originally left are coming back. I don't know. It's I there's just so much going on anymore, that I don't even know where that statement was going. But we'll just leave it there. Anyway, NGRX signals. If you do NX migrate, it's going to run the same stuff as NG upgrade. So if you're going to upgrade your signals, either do it through an NG upgrade or do it through an NX migrate. Both um, will run the generator afterward that's going to upgrade your stores that you already have, so that they're compatible with the new stuff. My suggestion is that you should use NX. And we were talking about this at the meetup also. And this is a sentiment I've shared in the past, but a lot of times, even on small projects, I feel like running Angular without NX is kind of running Angular on hard mode. NX does so much for you. It sets up prettier. It sets up your linter. It sets up your tests. It sets up your component tests. It sets up your end-to-end tests. Right? There's so much that NX does for you. That I think it's worth understanding, and at least becoming mildly familiar with it, and being surprised at how good it is. I'll show you why I like NX migrate over NG upgrade, and it'll happen after we run the command, right? So we're going to run the command. Then I should have been doing this while I'm busy rambling. But again, I get sniped, I get distracted. I am, I have made enough money streaming, which is weird to say, that I'm looking at basically something that I can put on my camera. so that my chat and everything sits up here instead of over here. So I don't know. If you guys look, I've got another monitor over to the side where I keep looking, right? And that monitor has 3 different chats on it and things like that. So you got asked to read a book that's based around who wrote the book, Michael? If you don't mind sharing, or if you can share, right? But anyway, so we're done. Well, we're not done with the upgrade, but the migrate is done running, and it's upgraded the package JSON, but it's also generated our migrations.json. This is the real power of NX. Is we can go take a look, and we can look in this migrations.json and see what it's going to do. And so we actually have 2 migrations here. The first migration is going to make all the state of all existing signal stores unprotected. I actually don't want to do this one. I'm going to let it run so you guys can see what it does. If I wasn't doing this on stream and I didn't want to show you guys what it does, I would just remove this. Because I don't want my signal stores to be unprotected. I want them to be protected, because if I'm doing anything wrong, I want to fix it now instead of allowing my stores to be unprotected and then potentially adding more unprotected stores in the future. So if I didn't want to do this, I would just delete it. Oh, we're in a read-only mode. But I would just delete this. And that way, the only thing that would happen is the state signal usages with writable state source. So only the second one would run. And that is one of the superpowers of NX, is that this migrations.json file can be edited before you run the migrations. And you could take stuff out that you don't want to run. Or there was an Angular update about a year ago that I couldn't get to run because the order that the generators were being run in broke the upgrade. I was able to flip them around and make it so that it ran. There was another Angular upgrade where a generator wasn't handling the situation where I didn't have anything that it needed to upgrade. I just took it out of the migrations and I didn't care, right? Everybody else had to wait for a point release from Angular. So NX Migrate gives you some serious power. This migrations file, and Chow has shared on stream a couple of times that at NX, when they do the migrations, if they have multiple migrations in a workflow that they want to do, they'll come in and they'll rename this migrations file, and then you can, when you run the migrations, you can pass in the name of the migrations that you want to run. So they may do an Angular migration, and it might generate a migrations.json file, but they don't want to run the migrations yet. They want to finish doing all of the Angular migrations, right? So they'll rename it, and then they'll run the next set of migrations, right? Because usually the way I do it is I'll upgrade core, and then I have to do CLI, and then I have to do schematics, right? Well, if core produces a migrations file, I can rename it, right, to migrations.core.json or whatever, right? And then if the CLI produces a migrations, then I rename it to migrations.cli.json. And then if the schematics produces migrations, I can just leave it. And then I can go run, my install, yarn, pnpm, whatever I'm using. And then I can go back and I can run the migrations.core, and then I can run migrations.CLI, and then I can just run my regular migrations. And it gives me so much control. Or I could take the renamed files and copy them into just the migrations, right? There's just so much control that you have. It's just a very powerful tool. So let's go. Oh, I should have been running PNPM, you guys. I am off my game tonight. We'll go ahead and get PNPM running. And then once PNPM runs, we're also going to run our migrations. We'll get that into our paste buffer. Okay, and it's fine if you don't want to say, because I do know that a lot of times things like that can be under NDA, or I was worried that we were frozen again. I was scrolled up and things weren't moving. I was like, oh no, I just needed to scroll down. So signals is in. It's been upgraded. Um, it downgraded my ESLint plugin, um, which is a bit funny, but we'll go fix that here in a second. Um, what we want to do though is we want to run our migrations. So just paste the command that it gives you. Once you're you don't even really have to run this install. If you don't run it, NX runs it right off the bat, right? So it tells you right here, hey, I'm running this. But if you've already run it, then you don't have to worry about it. And here it goes. It's running the migrations. Um, and there we go. So the migration here, um, there wasn't, I don't have state signal anywhere, so I don't think that did anything. But um, oh no, it did. It upgraded one reference from state signal to writable state source. Um, and then the signal store props.ts. So it also ran the state signal usages with writable state source. And then I'm curious what happened here. We'll go take a look. So that all ran, and if we go take a look, we can see what actually happened, right? So here's our migrations. I always check in the migrations. That's really up to you whether you want to or not. The reason I check in the migrations is, with that commit, we can see what migrations were run. Um, that's the only reason I do it. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. So there's our migrations. In the package.json, we can see that the NGRX signals was updated, and then it downgraded our ESLint plugin. So we'll go upgrade that again before we finish everything. I very rarely look at the YAML file. So, oh, interesting. So that's the only place where that changed. It didn't actually change my stores. Um, so none of my stores got changed um, to be unprotected. And I wonder if the generator is smart enough to see if I'm not using patch that it doesn't need to do it. So maybe I'm not using my stores in a way that being protected damages my code. But this was changed to be a writable state source. And this is a helper that we created. My dogs are going crazy because my daughter has a friend here. But anyway, oh, I was getting ahead of myself because I got distracted. So the ESLint plugin is on 1801. We're going to do it this way because the last time I tried to run the upgrade on the migrate on this, it just it tried to upgrade all of NGRX signal to 18, and so I don't want to try to upgrade everything to 1801 because not everything's at 1801. So there we go. We just need to stage that change too, and we're good. And then we can just say, hey, we upgraded at ngrx/signal to version 18. So there we go. We're now on the latest version of NGRX signal, and there are a couple of things that we want to do. But I want to get a Vindicoder written today. So maybe we'll do that, and then we'll look at the version 18 stuff later. The first thing I want to do right out of the bat is I want to run affected. And I've been using NX for a very long time, and it was like a week ago that I learned I could do this. So I can pass in multiple targets. So this is now my workflow at work. Is I do NX affected, and then I pass it link, test, and build, because I used to run each of those in order. Now we can go ahead and run these, right? So what you'll see is it's going to run all of these in parallel. And I'm hoping that they figure out why it keeps opening command windows like that. You'll see why when I open WebStorm. But you'll see here that, it's picked 14 targets to run in parallel based on, my main in the current version. But you can see here that it ran the lint, and then a test finished, a lint finished, a test. And so we've got 3 runners that are running linters and testers. And now we're getting into a production build. And so our Vindicode feature test actually broke. Our jest config is probably broken because I manually moved that project. So this project is broken. Let's go fix that test because I want everything to be green, because we will be writing tests for our Vindicoder. So let's go ahead and open our WebStorm. And we're going to go to our Vindicode, and in our jest.config, and this is the issue that I'm having right now with NX spawning extra command prompts. So it just keeps popping things up, and it can get a little bit frustrating at times. So anyway, in our jest config, oh yeah, the preset is not right. I don't know what was causing the speed issue. I had a video card update that I needed to run. I'd also been doing a whole bunch of AI stuff. And some of the AI libraries that I was using have a tendency to leak a lot of memory, and so I may not have had as much memory. I also had a Windows update that I needed to run. I've got one right now that I need to run, but this is like a major update, and so I don't want to touch it. So I'm going to do it after the stream, so it'll give me a couple of days in case I break things. And yeah, that was a reboot fixed the speed issue. I really don't know what caused it. I think part of it was my machine was in a weird state with a whole bunch of memory being eaten up, and potentially some AI processes that hadn't been killed properly. And usually, if I run AI before a stream, I reboot just to kill all of that stuff. The AI libraries are getting better, but they aren't quite there yet. They're getting closer and closer to being to a point where I probably won't have to do that. Another thing is that a lot of this stuff runs in Linux. And then the way like Linux runs handles memory is different than Windows, and just a whole bunch of different things, right? So I'm not sure what was causing the speed issue. I don't think it was NX that was causing the speed issue. I think it was a combination of Windows holding file locks when it shouldn't have, and then some memory issues. But I think the Windows popping up, was showing how many processes that NX was spawning, but it wasn't. The issue was compounded by NX having to spawn a whole bunch of processes because each of those windows was taking so long to to spin up, just because of the state of the computer. But as soon as I rebooted and started over again, all of my NX commands were running in like 2 to 3 seconds. So I, I don't know. Anyway, we've got an issue here because this jest preset doesn't exist in that file, that folder. We actually need to go up. It's the jest preset actually sits in the root, right? So we need to get a reference here. So we will need to go dot dot slash dot dot slash. That's up 3 directories, which moves us from Vindico. So we go 1 is to feature, 2 is to libs. I went too far. Just need to add 1 more dot dot. We should do the same here. And that's just, when you're moving stuff around, what I should have been doing is there's a command in NX, in the NX stuff that I could have moved it, right? So if I go here, where is it? There's an NX move command, and it might be under generate. Is it here? Yeah. So you could run this generator, and that would have fixed a lot of the issues that I caused by just moving it manually. So I should do that in the future. But the thing that I really have to call out about NX, and I have friends at NX, but I would still say this, right? So I'm not sponsored by them in any way. I do have a good relationship with people at NX, but NX is designed with like the developer experience in mind, right? So not only does it tell me that the Vindicode feature test failed, but it also gives me the run command that I can immediately paste, right? And so if I had NX installed globally, I could just copy and paste this command. If I don't, then I just need to add like my npx or my pnpm exec or whatever I need to run, right? Yarn, dlx, or whatever, right? And then paste it, and then it's going to immediately run that for me. And so we can see that it still failed. Can't find a root directory while resolving a config file path. So now we can start adding the verbose to this. So in our verbose, we get provided path to resolve Vindicode feature jestconfig.ts modular state. Can't find a root directory. Let's see if I can find this anywhere in the project. Is there a Vindicode feature? No. So there's some other cool tools that NX will give us. So here we're in the jest config. If we were in a project file for NX, we could just pop it open, but we can also go here. I want the project graph. But what we can do is we can just go and we can just say, hey, NX, and what we want to see is we want to see the project configuration. And let's look at the Vin decode feature, right? So we can see here in our cache from libs features Vin decode feature project.json. So we can see that our test target was automatically created because we have, oh, there's a project JSON here. No, it wasn't. It was actually created from our project JSON. So here's our Vin decode feature. Oh, look at this. This is where our problem is. But we can actually get rid of this. Because we're running a version of NX that has Crystal in it, we can actually get rid of all of that. And so now if I come and did I just, good, I didn't close that. But now if I come here and I look at it, and that's the thing that it spawned 4 processes there. Man, I'm gonna minimize this for now. But we only have the lint here. Hey, Michael, thank you for being here. You probably already left, but I appreciate it. Yeah. So Project Crystal, it picked up that I can lint from the ESLint RC, but I'm curious if it will allow me to run my tests now. That's interesting. It's telling me that it can't find the test target, so we're going to put that back. I would have thought that we could get rid of it, but because I thought that Jest could pick that up. So we need to just make sure that we point to the right Jest config. And right now it needs to be in libs features Vin decode feature. We just add libs features Vin decode. And that should get us to the Jest config. This is also wrong. This should be in libs slash features slash Vin decode feature. I'm curious if I do that, can I take out the targets? We'll just paste it back if we need it. There we go. Go ahead and, oh, minimizing that didn't do what I thought it would do. So no, come on. Okay, we're gonna move this over to the other window. But now we can see that my root is libs features Vin decode feature, which we set here, which is the right root, the library. It's picking up the lint target, but I'm curious why it's not picking up The NX project crystal jest. I don't know why it's not picking up the jest. Um, let's see what that one is about. Simplified example, NX jest, NX core. Oh, so the NX. Oh, we're just gonna have to put that back, I guess. I don't know what's going on. I would have. So as soon as I do that, then we should see Project Crystal over here. Problem with moving that window is it's covering my chat now. Ah, I don't know what to do with it, but so here's my test. And the cool thing about showing this graph, and it can be accessed through the editor and preview here, whenever you're in a project.json. But if we go like just config, it's not. But when you're here, you could also run it. I want to run it from my terminal. Let's there. And let's run our command again. That looks like it's going better. Okay. So things are going better. My .jest preset.js was not found. And I think the issue might be that if we go up 2 directories, we're in libs. We need to go up 1 more. So 3 was right. And that's another nice thing that WebStorm does for us, I think. It's not. Oh, it's starting from libs. Is it really only 1 directory up? We'll see. Maybe I changed the wrong thing too soon. So here we go. Let's go ahead and run this and see if I can find my no. Let's go take a look at another jest.ts file here, right? So we got our Vindy code, but like, let's take a look at our shared UI. That's up 2. So I definitely want to go up 3. So dot dot slash dot dot slash dot dot slash dot dot slash. And this is why we should use the generators to move things around, because then we aren't guessing about these things. But now if we run our tests, hopefully they run. Cine2Cozy, welcome to the stream. And thank you for being a first-time chatter. And there we go. So now at least our stuff is failing because of Vindicoder service isn't creating the right Vindicoder. So we can at least go fix that, right? So our jest is all fixed. So our Vindicoder service here, there's our test file. So we haven't added our Vindicoder service to this, so we can just say, hey, it provides the provider's Vindicoder service, and that should fix our tests now. Yeah, now our tests pass. So there we go. We've now fixed everything, and so now if we go back and we do pnpm exec affected, and it's nx affected, and we run this one again, then we're getting a warning. What is it saying about warning? In the working copy of libs features Vindicoder feature jest.ts. Oh, yeah, that's fine. Because I've gone in and messed with it. Windows uses I think just the line feed, and it's telling us that Git is going to replace it with a carriage return line feed. So when I went in, it probably what happened is it was generated with only line feeds, because it's Windows that uses the carriage return line feed. 10, 13, or 13 and 10, I don't remember. So one of these, the CR is ASCII 10 and LF I think is ASCII 13, or this is ASCII 13 and this is ASCII 10. It's been a long time since I've had to remember that, so I don't know the exact, but what this is basically telling us is that my line endings don't match because I've gone in and touched it. And so it's going to replace the stuff that doesn't match with that. But if we look, it ran like a lot of the stuff it found in my cache. So, this all came from the local cache. These all came from the cache. This all came from the cache. So the only thing it had to run was the lint. So everything else, like my production builds, my tests, my lints all came from the local cache. So it really only had to run one thing, and that's one of the other big powers, right, of NX, is that I can tell it, hey, only run the projects that I've affected, and then because it's got good caching, it also knows that when I do that, it only needs to run the ones that don't match the cache. So we're in a good state now. Let's go ahead and commit. now that we have upgraded. So this is really fixes for that, and this stage all changes. I'm just going to say that we fixed tests for in decoder service. So we're good there. And this is the kind of stuff that just experience with your tools is going to help you with. And this is one of the things that that I recommend when you want to move from like junior to mid or mid to senior or senior to whatever staff or whatever up above. Start taking on responsibilities. It gives you a chance to show leadership. It gives you a chance to learn something new. So these fixes that we made here, these aren't things that I expect people to just know off the top of their head. The reason I do is that I've encountered stuff like this before, and so I know where to look. I know what to fix. But even I started in the wrong place. I really should have started here in the project.json. And I'm still a little bit confused because I don't know why. Like in a lot of places, if I remove targets, then the test should run. And we can test that out on a library that we haven't moved. So let's do that really quick. So shut down that project JSON. We shut down that. We're going to need the Vindicoder feature. We'll do the tests too. We can shut down this index. We'll open it if we need it. Our routes, we don't need to worry about. And our component, we don't need to worry about. That cleans up a whole bunch of stuff. Let's go over here and like shared UI has been here since the beginning. So if I come into the project JSON here, let's just, whoops. Let's just remove the targets here and see what happens. Does that break anything for us? So NX is going to launch a couple of processes. No. So we can see that like it's able to infer that is a lot of processes that it kicked off. Oh no. No, it's not. So I thought it was, but it's not able to infer the it's not able to infer the tests. It can absolutely infer the lint. I think I'm missing. I'll need to go back and look at what I'm missing. But I think there's a setting in the nx.json that's missing that allows it to infer all of that stuff. And so I think that's the piece that I'm missing. But I'll validate that and then get back to you guys. Here we've got a whole bunch of problems. We've got an unused method. It's interesting that it's not underlining them. Like I can turn that on. Oh, did I click on? No, that's the mini map. So this, I'm highlighting all problems. I guess they just mean, so it's not underlining them. And we could probably go in and mess with that, right? We can configure our inspections. Um, and the unused method. So we've got unused TypeScript method, right? Saying that's an error, but what we've got here is not an error. Um, so that's interesting. It's not underlining some of the stuff. I'm not sure. Like this one, it is because it's underlining the typo. Typically, what I'll do is I'll just save that in my dictionary, and that will make that go away. Um, but injectable, I think it's showing that there's some issues here. So decode vin is never used and it's empty. So let's get started, right? Yell at Jan about the underlining. And Jan is typically such a nice guy that I feel bad yelling at him. Um, not really. Yeah, it's probably a good idea to bring that up, right? The first thing I want to do is let's get a read only base URL for this, and we'll set that up. And I'm going to use it as const, and I want as const because I want this to change. There to be as little possibility of this changing. What it chose is actually pretty good. So we're going to grab that piece. We're going to say, yep, that is our root. And because I'm saving, I'm going to move this over to the other screen, which means I need to fix it so I can see my chat again. Did the office hours with Jan today answered a lot of my JetBrains questions. How was that? That sounds amazing. Like truly, I think it would be a lot of fun to just talk with Jan and just hang out, right? So I'll bet it was a lot of fun. Anyway, we need a reference, and we're going to make this private. It doesn't need to be public. We're not going to expose it anywhere. What was that? Okay. My wife's letting me know that dinner is ready. Got about a half hour. And I'll go eat. I can smell that my youngest daughter loves she loves orange chicken, and so my wife and daughters have done a bunch of they've done a bunch of research on different types of orange chicken recipes and stuff like that, and they've come up with a pretty good one. I can smell it; it smells really good. Um, so we may make the format injectable too. Orange chicken mentioned, yeah. Um, Real chill. Learned a lot of stuff. I didn't have the language for it, but knew had to be a thing in WebStorm. Yeah, and that's the cool thing about Jan is he's really good at making you comfortable. So I'm glad you had a good experience. I like all of my interactions with him have been just been like you said, very chill. He's very knowledgeable, and a lot of times he'll even have something that's like, "Hey, did you know you could do this?" Um, before I even bring it up. So Jennifer wasn't at NGConf this year, but Jan, yeah, Jan was Jan was there, and Jan's always got he's always got like good coffee. Um, or he's got good tips on coffee too. So yeah, my team did. Oh, oh, you're talking. Oh, yeah. Oh, the Angular Family Feud stuff, right? You're talking about that with the yeah, as part of the podcast, right? Um, where Jay was the host, and man, I got accused of cheating, and I didn't realize I was doing it until they were accusing me of it. Yeah. Um, well, so a lot of people might have been watching remote. At NGConf, there are a lot of people that know the podcasts, and and are fans. But during that time, they're also doing lunch, um, and a lot of times there will be the opportunity to meet with people from the Angular team or stuff like that. So people might be doing lunch somewhere, and they plan on catching the podcast later or things like that. But it was a lot of fun, and yeah, Jan not knowing his wife was on the list was hilarious. But to be fair, a lot of times you don't expect like somebody to be you know to be as famous as they possibly are, right? Um, so I'm happy to give him a pass there, um, but yeah, it was hilarious. It was a lot of fun. Um, how do I have misspellings now? Oh, decode Vin not in a comment. That's why. And I'm getting more and more warnings, right, as things are showing up. But so we've got the base URL, we've got the HTTP client. This should return something besides void, um, which it will. So for right now, we're just going to return um, this dot HTTP client, and this is one place where like understanding what that Copilot actually wrote some dangerous code for you here. Because if I come in and like I need to do like a V2, and I forget the slash, I've broken stuff, right? And so it's really important to understand how things are put together. Um, Typically, what I will do is I like to inject location. So here we'll do read only location. And we're going to inject location. And we don't want the location that it's got injected. I think we can get it from here. No. Import location. Yeah. Is it from Angular Common? It is. So now that we've got location here, now we're not using the location from the browser, but instead we're using the location from Angular. And what we can do is we can do this dot location dot whoops location dot join with slash. Oh, and guess what? I don't need to inject it because it's on the static location. So location dot join with come on, join with slash. Um, and so yeah, this is what we want. And why doesn't it like Vin here? Expected 2 arguments, but got 3. So location join with slash has that. And then on the get, I believe, so instead of doing it that way, we want to make sure that we do it this way. Which means we need to swap these quotes. I have an extension that allows me to do that. So there's my decode VIN. And now all we need to do is append the format JSON. So now we should be able to just, well, first of all, we need to put this into something, right? So we can say const decode URL equals this. And now we can grab our decode URL. But I believe if we look at our get, we can also pass in our parameters. So in our options, we can pass in headers, context, right? What we want to observe, and then we can pass in HTTP params. And so we can actually just make this decode URL, and then inside of here we can just say, hey, params, and we can add format JSON to it, and we need the end, and that should make the call that we need. So that becomes pretty simple. JSON format JSON. I actually love the name of JSON because it allows me to be a little bit narcissistic about stuff. But I highly recommend that you just get in the habit of doing location join a slash. You can go even deeper. So like what we're doing here with the params, or even here we could go even deeper with just Angular in general, and we could build like a URL tree. So we could do const tree equals new URL tree, right? And then inside of here, we can build up our stuff. So we can pass in the root, right, which would be the this is wrong. It's because I injected location. It's very wrong. It's good that I checked that out. So this.base URL. So right with the URL tree, we could also build this up, right? Because it's root and then query params and then any fragments. And so you can see down here. So it'll parse this out, but so you can see this returns fragments. So fragments are anything after here. You can set up your query params, but then you can create things out of URL segments and URL segment groups, and you can get really, really safe with your URLs. And I actually recommend doing that for any URLs that you're building that might be based on stuff that your users are passing to you, right? So like this Vin is actually dangerous. And I'll show you. Well, the funny thing is that this is doing an injection against it's doing an injection against the the NHTSA.gov. So if their backend isn't prepared for those kinds of injections, but if I were to put this URL anywhere on the screen, they could do a code injection, right? So if they made Vin something like semicolon alert hello world semicolon and then return false, right? So if I set, and I would need to play around with this, but I've basically done a URL injection. So if I were to display this decode URL anywhere on the screen, they've injected script into my page that I didn't expect to be there. And that's why using those tools to build your URLs are much safer than doing what I'm doing here. And maybe we'll come back and look at those tools. I don't want to get too distracted right now because I've only got about 20 minutes before I need to stop. I'm going to go take over watching our puppy for my wife. And we'll hang out and watch some Star Wars or something tonight. I'll just make sure she's not running around, and we're having to watch her for fevers or reactions to her medicine. But yeah, be very, very careful about the URLs that you build. For now, we're not going to worry too much, but we need to add this to our feature. So inside of here, we've got our state. So we've got our methods, and we can just say, hey, we want to decode Vin method. And one thing that I learned is that this method that it's trying to create here is inferior to doing it this way. And there are a couple reasons why, but one of the biggest reasons is that if you do a function this way with the arrow, right, you automatically get a this capture. And so this will refer to something, right? With signal store, it's not as big of a deal, and we could just seriously do this, and it would be fine. But I'm getting into the habit of making sure that when I declare properties or methods on constant objects, that I'm using this arrow because I want to make sure that it's going to behave the way I'd expect it to. So just be aware that that it might not work out. Like you might introduce issues if there are benefits to both styles. This style that I'm doing here tends to work out better. So, and again, this is something that I learned a couple of weeks ago, and I need to go back and refresh the reasons in my mind. But there was a good article written recently on why you should choose this style over the other. There are very valid reasons to choose the other style, but for me, I'm just trying to force myself to get into the habit because I'd recently gotten into the habit of not using the anonymous functions and instead just declaring a function on the object. And so that's the reason I'm picking. There's, in a signal store, because it's all functional, there's probably not as many benefits to picking it this way. I was going to say no benefit, but if there's no benefit, then why even talk about it, right? There aren't as many benefits. So we declared that the signal store, this Vin decoder, has to exist in a place where we have a Vin, right? So one thing to know about a Vin is you can't decode a Vin if it's not 17 characters. So one of the things we can do is we can just say if, it's already going to say vin.length is not equal 17. We can throw a new error. We probably don't want to throw this error, right? because one of the things we want to do here is make this an Rx method. And so this VIN is now going to be an observable of string. And this gets moved down here. And here, if I do this, I need parentheses around here. So I could do it this way, and that'll work just fine. You know, we've got some errors here, but the other thing I could do is I could just say, hey, there will be a string here. This can only be a string, and that allows me to remove a lot of this stuff. And so now I can just go straight into my tap operator. And that goes there, I believe. That's the right place for it. That closes that. That closes that. I've got too many parens. I think that's my problem. Right. We've got that one closing that. And when I saved, it stole the focus. So what I'm missing is I need another closing paren, I believe. And that comma goes away, right? So that matches up with the tap. There, that matches there. That one matches there. And so we need one more. And that should do it. Right? So this all matches up. That matches. Oh, I've got, that's in the wrong place. So that one matches that one. That now matches that one. That matches that one. That matches that one. And that should not be there. Instead, we should have one there. Wait. Stop stealing my focus, please. There should be a comma here. This is my problem right here. I need VIN with an arrow here. Oops. There we go. That all matches up. No semicolon there. That matches. That matches. Quit stealing my focus, please. Boom, boom. What is comma expected? Okay. Expression expected. Oh, I'm missing that closing paren. So with methods is closed, but I don't have the closing paren here. And I need that closing paren too. And that is one thing that that closing brace and closing paren, that is one thing that modern editors have definitely made better. is matching braces, right? As you guys all know, that can be super painful to try and figure out. But now we've got our with Vin decoder in place. Got our store feature, we've got our with method, we've got our Vin decode. So here, we don't want to throw this error. Instead, what we should do is we should add our own state. And so what I typically will do is inside of this lib, we will add a new folder. And this will be called our state folder. And inside of our state, we'll just add a new TypeScript file. And we will call this our Vin decode model. And how about we do it the right way, Vin decode.model.ts. And this is just a convention that I follow. I like to make my model.ts, my models have a model.ts. If they're a data transfer model object, I might go Vin decode.dto.ts, right? Things like that. So this is our state. So we're going to export, and we're going to export a type. And this is our Vin decode state, and that's all we need. And here, so our Vin decode state, we don't need the Vin because we've already got it, but we have an error message, and that will be a string right now. We'll be pretty naive about it. We'll only add things to our state as we need them. And then the other thing that I always like to do is I like to export a way to create that, right? So const empty Vin decode state, and that will, I always like to make these a factory. And so boom equals that. It'll return Vin decode state, and then here we are going to return error message none. In the future, maybe now's a good time. Well, no, we'll look at optionals here soon. But one of the biggest mistakes that I find people make is doing that, and then using undefined or null. That can lead to all sorts of problems. Let's find a library that does it. Let's just find one. So TS TypeScript optional library. And what we're looking for is maybe something like TypeScript optional. And let's go to the GitHub repository, because that's going to give us a dark screen instead of that bright white that I just flashed all of you. So optional is something that may or may not contain a payload of type T. And so what this allows us to do is say, hey, this is intentionally empty, not that it's undefined, not that it's null. And so maybe I don't know. I don't know if I want to use a Java version of something in optional dash TypeScript is the other one. And I just got a message. Let's take a look at that here. Finally figured out. Yeah. Yeah, the parent brace is madness, and that often comes along as just part of functional, right? When you get into like some of the functional languages, and when you start getting into a lot of the lambda-based languages and the lambda calculus-based languages, parentheses just abound. And it just is kind of what it is, right? So optional allows you to avoid errors related to undefined and null. So we add optional dash TypeScript, and so now we can just declare that something is an optional, or it has some, right? And these are functional constructs, right? So there's the notion of none, or some, or optional. Optional can be undefined. It can hold null, and so it also gives us matchers. This one looks very functional. Oh, we're getting flat map on this. What is this library? This is crazy. Like, this is a full functional library. So like when you're doing like functional calculus, this has probably got some currying built into it too. But we're getting all of the classic functional, right? Filters, value or async. But value or is pretty cool because it tells you that, hey, this can return a value, or a function returning a value of the same type, an error, or yeah. But so some allows you to turn a value into an optional. None is an optional type of .none, and then there are optionals too. So here, like value or none equals some. So we've created an optional that has a value of 1 inside of it. And then here we're doing value or none, value or, and then we're returning a 2. So basically what's happening here is we're saying we're waiting on an optional. If there's no optional, then run this async function, which is kind of cool. Value or async. And right, instead of having to wait like this promise and all this stuff. But this one's probably a little too deep for what I'm looking for. And I'm nerd sniping myself here, to be honest. Let's look for a TypeScript maybe. So another term for optional in functional languages are often maybes. So oh man, I'm sorry about this. I don't see a way to turn it dark, but looks like Purify has this notion of maybe. And so in the other one, we had optional. So optional is maybe, just is some, and nothing is none. And the main reason for this is that when you return an optional, it becomes a maybe of type number. To use it, you have to unwrap it, right? So I like this. Can I just get this library? But we'll look at why I want to do this. But basically, I don't want to use undefined anywhere in my project. So how can I add just maybe? Home. This is Purify TS. It's a functional library. I only want the maybe. But they want me to install the entire library. That's too bad. Maybe.ts, maybe.ts is what I'm looking for. So let's go take a look at the site. So maybe.ts gives us maybe is either a nothing or a just something. Was null undefined. For the same reason, just a is just a type alias for a. Chosen approach. Oh, they want me to import star as maybe. So this has a default export. When was this last worked on? 7 years ago. Man, Purify was like everything that I wanted. Um, so maybe is actually a monad. And right, once we start talking about monads, then we have to start talking about endofunctors. And no, we don't really. Monads just mean that they're a function that can return a value. Um, well, that is way oversimplified. Um, so this one hasn't been worked on. Like the thing is that these libraries don't have to be very up to date because the concept is so simple. And so this one is using just, or it's mapping values to values. And oh, I wish this was here. Um, this pipe operator doesn't exist in JS yet, which means that this is probably working with Babel code. I so wish this operator was here because it allows you to chain things into other things. And now I'm sniping myself again. But ES pipe operator. Every time I see it, like it was proposed in 2021, right? It's a stage 2 draft. So November of last year, it moved into stage 2. That's pretty cool. I think once it reaches stage 3, then TypeScript, yeah, exactly, right? Going from a base started in NG7 and then making a strict NG17 base was a real optional mind blow. Yeah, optional is like I want to I want to use optional or maybe or something because I don't want to use undefined anywhere in my project where I can avoid it. A lot of code in JavaScript is written to do undefined and stuff like that. But so here's the idea, right? You have a pipe expression that can short circuit, but then you have a pipe body. And so, do they have actual examples here? Um, and it's been a while since I've read through this, but I mean, they've got the tests here, so you can see what you're going through, right? Where they're telling you how it should behave. Um, Here's the pipe operator. So we've got short circuits and then pipe bodies, and pipe bodies can be more short circuit expressions, so you can keep chaining forever. But yeah, so value must be, so value will become a variable that is used in the next function. So here, right, we're yielding, and then actually it's been a while since I've read this, so I don't actually know how to read this anymore. This is the pipe operator though. That's the operator that's important to know. So it looks like this yield percent is a special operator, and then the percent can be used further down the pipe. I don't know. We're definitely out in the middle of nowhere. Um, So right here, I think I've read this one before, and this may be the way that we go. Um, no, that's not the one. That one open. Oh, open there. And maybe we'll do this next time. But let me share this with everybody. You guys have it, and you can read through it. I had multiple team discussions on optional versus undefined. Exactly. Um, Optional is almost always the superior choice. Undefined is a way to introduce optional into your code, but it can often be hidden. You may not realize that an undefined is coming back, but with a maybe, like with a maybe, right? And so they're using TS mono, but right. So this check right here isn't required, right? Because this could be null or undefined, but this isn't required. So you don't have to do this check, which means that oftentimes people don't realize that a null or undefined could come back. And in that case, where you're allowing a null or undefined to come back, then buspass.is valid for route breaks. And then the common fix for that is to add a question mark here, right? An optional chaining. And then you created all sorts of other messes because now can ride for free can now be null or undefined, right? And so it just creates a problem. But here, if we returned get age, which is a monad, right, which then can be, we can check if we've got a value using just, then right, we can call is valid for route. If we get nothing, then false. And this kind of language right here is often hard for people to read, but once you're used to it, it becomes really cool. And the other thing is that you don't even have to do this. Instead, what you could do, and we're chaining through here, right? So we're binding this function to this function, and then if this returns something, so dot bind allows us to run something on whatever get age returns, and so we need to look. But yeah, the cool thing about maybe is you have to check if something is found, and that way you can pull values off of it. And this guy doesn't, so he must be talking about his work in implementing it, but he doesn't actually talk about how to implement it. I was hoping to look for something simple. This was written in 2019 also, right? So I think what we'll take a look at, I think we'll grab the optional. Purify looked really cool, but which one was it that I liked? I don't know. We'll look at it next time on Sunday. This is the maybe library again that I keep opening up. I think we may use this one versus the other one, but we'll make a decision on Sunday, and pick one of them. Maybe we'll look at the number. So this one's getting 7,000 weekly downloads, and like it hasn't been touched in 3 years, but these things are so stable and so well understood that that's not a big concern for me. Truly optional, whereas undefined, yeah. Well, and undefined just means that we don't know, right? We don't know if the value was intended to be undefined. We don't know if they just never defined it. We don't know, like undefined is like the ultimate, I don't know, right? Even as far as I'm concerned, null is far better than undefined because at least with null, you've taken a time to say this is null, right? Undefined, undefined is what's returned from a function that returns nothing, right? Um, undefined is what a variable gets when you just declare a variable. Um, and so, like null and undefined are often equated, or conflated, depending on how you want to say it. But null definitely means that you assigned a value in JavaScript. Undefined does not. In other languages, null is quite often what JavaScript considers to be undefined, right? And so that's the other problem is that JavaScript has two values, and that's where like optional becomes useful. And maybe we'll use this one because it is a lot simpler than the other. I don't know. I'll do some research. I'll figure out which one we want to use, and we'll pick it up on Sunday. And thank you for that. I've dealt a lot with null and undefined, and this is the first project where we're just going to get rid of it. We're going to use an optional, and we're going to go for it. And I want to see what the trade-offs are, right? One of the big trade-offs is that optional is a discriminated union, which is a huge benefit. Because to get something off of it, you have to check, what it is. Because it's a discriminated union, you either have to check that it has a value, and then you can pull a value off, or if it doesn't have a value, then you can pull the error off or the the default condition or whatever. But optional forces you to do that. Null and undefined don't. And so I want to see what the trade-offs are. I want to see how it affects my code. And if it breaks code, right? Like if it breaks Angular. So let's do that. But thank you everybody for being here. We got a bit further down the road. There was a bit of nerd sniping going on today, I will admit, and I did some of it to myself. But we're going to just add a note here that we want to make this optional string, right? Because we don't want null or undefined to be here. And we might even introduce like some sort of typing library to guarantee that what we get, it can't be null or undefined if it comes from an API or something like that. So we'll take a look at that next time. But yeah, thank you everybody for being here. Join us Sunday. Join us Sunday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. We'll pick this up some more. And yeah, you guys have a great rest of your week. Hopefully tomorrow you guys have an amazing Friday. And